All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your presenter today. It is promptly 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome to today's webinar on December 16th for dealing with or handling prepaid pledges. We're going to be spending the next 20 minutes or so together, less, depending on how long this time's out here. Hopefully everybody had a chance to log in and view some of the webinar intro movie there that kind of instructs how the webinar control panel works. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. It's just me today, so I'm the only one answering my own questions essentially. So if you do have a question, excuse me, please type that into the questions portion of the webinar. I will try my best to keep an eye on that and repeat the question for everyone's benefit. However, just letting you know now, I may not be able to get to answering questions until we get to the end of the presentation. I will be happy to answer questions that you have about prepaid pledges then, if I don't get to it during the event. And again, all I ask is that we do keep our questions topical, meaning if you have other questions about accounting or membership or other portions of donations, anything to do with prepaid pledges, either look for that in another webinar topic or please call our support staff 800-533-5227. We're always available and happy to help. All right, so before we get started on the topic at hand in Church Windows, I do want to point out the document that I'm using for the webinar presentation today is already listed here on our New Year Prep and Help page at our website. Let me get out my highlighter here and just show you where that is. Under our balloon called Using Church Windows in the support section, we see a link called New Year Prep and Help right here on the left side. That if we click on that, and it takes us to a whole slew of end of year and new year preparation documents for all the modules in the software. The document that I'm using today is the one right here under Donations, New Year Prep Steps, and the Donations, New Year Steps. So if I go ahead and click on that to open that, there's all kinds of information on when, ending giver numbers, assigning new giver numbers. These are some of our biggest support calls right about now through support, reassigning numbers. But the portion I'm looking at or working with exclusively for today, it even talks about creating envelopes. But what I'm here to talk about is starting on page 5, which deals with starting a new campaign and recording prepaid pledges. Okay, so just an FYI that these 2 pages are what we're going to be talking about for about the next 15 or 18 minutes now for how to set up and we'll set up a pledge and record a prepaid to that pledge account for someone. So just an FYI, that's what I'm using, and we just want you to know there's not only this document, but all kinds of helpful information under our New Year Prep and Help page. Perhaps some of you attended the accounting webinar yesterday. We've got one tomorrow on emailing donation statements. Please register for these. They're all entirely free. All right, so in order for us to record a prepaid pledge, someone who's giving an amount, in this case in 2015, to their pledge for 2016, I mean, it may be overstating the obvious, but we want to make sure that we're crystal clear about this, we can only record a prepaid pledge to a pledge that has been set up and entered, okay? I can't record a prepaid pledge to a pledge that doesn't exist. Okay, I know that seems logical, but again, we need to make sure that we're explaining it very clearly for folks, okay? So you have to set up the pledge. And I get this call on support a lot. Our technicians do, and I'll get a response periodically from somebody that says, well, I haven't received that contributor's stewardship card back, or I don't know what their pledge is. And I say, okay, well, that's fine. But then we have to at least set up their pledge for 2015 or 16 for the next year for at least the amount of the prepaid that they've given. Okay, we can still go in and amend the pledge later if we wish, but we have to set up a pledge of some kind. So the way we're going to do that is when we go into donations, we're going to go right here to pledges in the center, or we can go up here to accounts and pledges, and then below that we'll see a similar button called pledges with the blue ribbon on it. Okay, and when we click on that, it opens up our View and Enter Pledges window. Okay. There are 2 tabs in the upper left corner, Campaign Pledges and Pledges by Giver. 90 times out of 100 or 95 times out of 100, you're going to be probably using the campaign pledges. By way of brief explanation, pledges by giver is basically where the contributor decides, or the church lets the giver decide what their pledge is going to be entirely. You know, what giving account they're pledging to, for how long, what the amount is, the frequency, everything. Okay? Unlike campaign pledges where folks are pledging for a common purpose and for generally the same date range, for the same time period. Okay? So in this case, if we pull up our campaign for 2015 general fund, again, we see right up here in the upper left corner, account is general fund. The date range is 1/1 through December 31st of 15. Okay? So those are the two things that are common to a campaign: an account and a date range. Okay? So in order for me to set up my 2016 pledges, I have one of two options. If you're just setting it up for like a new campaign, then by all means you would simply go up to the top here, at the top left, click the plus sign, and it'll open up a window and it'll say enter new campaign name. You know, and we'll call this new campaign 2016. And so we would just type this in, click OK. It then asks us to choose which account, giving account, is going to receive these monies, and what is the date range. So we would put in, you know, in this case, 1/1/2016 through 12/31 of 2016. Or if it's a multi-year campaign, you would enter the 2, 3, 4, however many year period the actual multi-year campaign is going to run. And then we would simply click Add Givers. Now we have our option to be able to choose our givers, entering the amount of their pledge, and then simply add giver to campaign, continuing to build the pledges as we would normally. Okay? So that's, you know, add people to the pledge, to the campaign based on the, you know, stewardship cards or the pledge cards that we're receiving back. The list here begins to grow. Okay? So once we have a completely entered pledge, it would look something like this, where we have a list of names with the total pledge amount, how many payments are due, what their pledge amount is per their frequency, the frequency, and the start and end dates. Okay? We also have the option to copy a campaign. So if, say, I go, okay, I want to use my 2015 general fund as the structure for my 2016 pledge, I can simply choose the campaign I'm wanting, simply click the Copy Campaign button right up here at the top center. Maybe everybody can see that. If not, I'll highlight it here, right up here, next to Find Pledges. And then when I click on that, it'll pop up and say, well, in this case, a leap year can affect new date range. Please verify the end dates for the new campaign. Next year is a leap year, if I'm not mistaken. So when we click OK on that, it asks us to enter our campaign name and edit, and allows us to be able to edit our start and end date. So we're going to call this General Fund 2016. And notice my end date does show 12/30 of 2016. So if I want to make that the full year, I have to edit that end date. And then I simply click OK. So technically now my 2016 and 2015 pledge are identical. Okay? Because all I've done is copy my current pledges over to that. I can now go in here and I can remove folks if need be. So if I go, okay, Lucy Altoff here isn't pledging for next year, I simply click the minus sign. It'll say delete pledge for general fund. You know, it says donations for this pledge will not be linked. That's fine. But basically that's how I would remove folks. Okay, similarly, anybody that wasn't in the 2015 campaign, I can simply scroll down the list, you know, add their name, entering their pledge amount with their frequency on it, just like I would normally, and then simply click Add Giver to Campaign, and the list continues to grow. Okay? So that's how we build those campaigns. Okay? So you have one of those two options. If folks are going to be pledging the same amount between, from 15 to 16, say, for example, you could save yourself some time of re-entering that if their pledge isn't changing. Just make your necessary changes or edits or what have you by adding or removing names as needed. And of course, if I go, okay, Ruth Asbell here, her pledge is changing, so she said, okay, next year for 2016, I'm increasing my weekly pledge to $7 a week. I can just edit that amount. And that's changed that, and it even changes the overall total pledged for the period. So I have the same kind of flexibility that I would have if I were setting up a brand new pledge or campaign when I use the copy function to either add, delete, or edit. I can even come in here and change a frequency. So if Ruth says, okay, I don't want my pledge to be $7 weekly, I want it to be $28 monthly, I can simply type in $28, come over here to my frequency, change it to monthly, and what do you know, it's changed that amount. Okay? Or $30 or what have you. Editing, that's how easy it is to edit, enter, or change a pledge or campaign for either a single person or in this case to copy one. Okay? Second option here. So we got about 8 or 9 minutes left here. So we talked about setting up the pledge. Now we're going to actually go in and record the prepaid pledge. So there's a really important step here that's often overlooked, and that is, how do those prepaid monies affect accounting? So if we go up to donations, transfer to accounting, it opens up. We're going to click on our default account links. Notice here under our default account links tab, or our default account links tab, yes, we have our giving account, in this case our general fund. Here's our debit account or bank account or asset where the money is being deposited each week. Here's our general tithes and offerings income account. And notice that the column to the far right is called prepaid credit account. Okay? And in here we have a liability account called prepaid pledges. Okay? And the reason why we have this set up this way is because there are two needs that are in play here when dealing with prepaids. We need to give credit for the contributor on the year in which they gave the prepaid amount, so in this case 2015, and yet we don't want it to show up on our treasurer's report in accounting until 2016. So the prepaid monies that pledges, and this will make more sense here when we go through recording the prepaid pledge momentarily in donations, is that this money just for the prepaid amounts will then credit over to this liability account, bypassing our treasurer's report for the remainder of 2015. And then in 2016, we'll simply journal entry that money from the post a simple journal entry from the 280-100 prepaid pledges liability account over to our income account when we actually open or are working in 2016 in accounting. Okay, so what that may mean is you may have to go over to accounting and add a prepaid pledges liability account, much like this one. Okay. So now with that being said, when we receive the prepaid amount from our giver, okay, we would come in here and we would say, okay, we're going to say we received a prepaid pledge on December 13th from Big Giver. He's decided he's going to give us $2,500 towards his 2016 pledge. We'll enter a payment method with check or reference number. And this is the most important part about recording the prepaids themselves, is that it will default to general fund because that's the current pledge. Notice here in our pledge range, to the right here it says general fund, and then to the right it says current. Current means the current fund for 2015 because that's the date we're recording the gift. Okay. However, if we scroll down further to the bottom, we begin to see not only our prior pledges, but we see the one for General Fund 2016. Okay? We see here General Fund January 1, 2016 through December 31st. That is the pledge for Mr. Big Giver for next year. I choose that. We're going to go ahead and just leave the amount. We're going to click Done Add to Batch. And now based on our December 31st of 15 donation date in comparison to the January 1 of 16 start date for the pledge, Church Windows Donations knows automatically that this is a prepaid pledge or prepaid amount, prepaid gift. The system is pretty smart that way, okay? So I could then simply go in here and I could record, well, that's not what I wanted, but let's go ahead and close out of the intended window, and we're just going to add a regular gift to our giving account, or a couple of those. Oh no. All right, and we're just going to add I'm not having very good luck clicking here today, folks. Sorry about that. We're just going to add another couple of ones here. Just to have you see what it looks like when we actually transfer it over. And we're going to kind of break this up into a couple different accounts. We're going to have somebody record somebody for their current pledge. Or to the general fund, as the case may be, and done add to batch. Then we're going to go ahead and click post and transfer here. So we click yes. It now opens up our transfer donations to accounting window. And now notice here, when we look at our batch as it's transferring, the system knows right here, here's our regular giving for 2015 into our general fund for the $250. Here is our general fund prepaid amount for the $2,500. And notice that $250 is going into the general tithes and offerings for 2015. The $2,500 is going into the prepaid pledges liability account in accounting. Okay? And so, again, the system knows where to send that money. Then we would simply click, and notice it's even checked for prepaid right there in the prepaid box in the middle. We simply click on post. It opens up and asks us, to confirm our donation transactions. And we click post. And now, if we go back to our balance sheet, whoops, not in donations, but in accounting. We go up to reports and export, balance sheet. We're going to run it as of December. Click print. Yeah, so the 225, that should be showing up in there. Maybe I need to rebuild the balances by exiting out of accounting, but it looks like I didn't journal entry a balance out from the prior year there. But that 2,500 is now sitting in that prepaid pledges liability in accounting as of December. Oh, I know why, because I'm in 2016. So if we say no to that, we go up to special functions, manage years, change to another accounting year, go back. Not bank rec. Reports and export financial balance sheet. Run that through December. Click print. Yeah, so we notice our year-to-date balance for prepaid pledges is increased by $2,500 in the month of December. Okay. There, I could add the period activity column too, and that would also bring that in. Period activity. There we go. Let's try that. Yeah, so right here under our period activity column in the center, there's our prepaid pledges for $2,500 that we've received right here. Okay. And that's it, folks. So that's how it is. The key is making sure that your giving account is linked over to a liability in accounting. Then also looking for making sure the pledge is entered for the person for next year or for the family. And then going into the enter donations window, entering it like you would normally, looking and choosing the pledge, the giving account with the pledge range with next year's date range on it. Don't overthink it, as I like to say on my support calls. Let the data steer you to the proper conclusion. It will tell you what you're looking at. Okay. All right, well, that's it, folks. With about another minute here, I'm done with what I'm talking about. Let me see if we've got any questions over here. Let me get rid of my drawing here and close out of my report, and then we'll go back. Let's see. The new year would be transferred to 2016 pledges. I know this is not Wait, hang on. We have already received payment of a 2016 pledge, and the Assistant Treasurer's entered it into outstanding budget line, prepaid pledges. Okay. I mean, again, I think that still can be fixed for the remainder of the year, Marilyn. Yeah, that's a call that honestly we would need to have you call me through support on that to fix that. Um, Again, they could post a simple journal entry to, if they've credited it to income, debit the income account in 2015 and credit it to a prepaid pledges liability for the remainder of the year. But call me on that if you have questions about it. I'm being asked, how do you get the prepaid pledge to show up on the current year's pledge statement if it was paid in the prior year? Well, again, Evelyn, that would be probably the call in through support. But if you're talking about 14 pledges or prepaids that we're not showing on the 2015 statement, we're going to recommend going into your pledges in donations and going to the, under pledges by giver, going to the prior system donations tab button right here. Prior system donations, that's where you can record those prepaid amounts, is right here. Does the fact that the money was paid in 2015 show up as paid in the 2016 statement? It shows up as prior giving. It is a prepaid amount, so that amount does get up, their 2015 amount prepaid does get applied to their amount of their total pledge amount that's being promised in 2016, and that does get taken off. But they don't receive giving or deductible credit for it only in 2015, not in 16. It just shows that they've already paid that amount on their 2016 pledge. Could you go over checking for the prepaid pledges liability account? Sure. Well, I mean, I guess what we have to do is, if you go into, Wendy, you go to donations, transfer to accounting, you click on your default account links, and if you click in your prepaid credit account over here, notice we get a drop down arrow. It reveals only liability accounts. So if you scroll, it won't let you choose anything else. So if you scroll down here and through all of your liabilities, and we don't see the liability account indicating it's set up specifically for prepaids, that's pretty much a strong indicator that we have to go over to accounting and add that account. So yeah, we would simply close out of donations. We would go into accounting. I would probably go up to manage accounts in the upper left and accounts plus minus, choosing liabilities. Here, create a new account name called prepaid pledges, entering a number 2 number and simply clicking add account, and that'll add it to your current list of liability accounts. Yeah, it's that easy. And yes, I'll just journal entry that balance when I've updated my beginning balances to 2016 over to the income account. I hope that helps. Yeah, or you could go into, one of the things I like about going to the prepaid pledge link account there, Wendy, is because it just restricts it to liabilities. You could also go into manage accounts in accounting, scroll down here into your liability accounts and look here, collapsing all maybe and just expanding liabilities and just revealing those. I can't even choose an accounts payable vendor, okay? So my vendors don't appear there even though they are categorized as liability accounts. Only a number 2 account will show up there. Great questions. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. Hang on, let me see if something maybe did. Oh, no, I got that one. Good. So I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, folks. Hope we've answered those questions for you. Hope this was helpful. Again, we do have a movie and the document on the website. It just shows it's from 14 to 15, but the process is exactly the same. Just imagine 15 to 16 instead of 14 to 15. I think we will eventually get this presentation out on the website somewhere on that. But we've only got a couple more weeks left in the year. We'll try to get that out there as quickly as we can. We hope it's been helpful. I will go ahead and end the webinar for everyone, and we hope to see you at another Church Windows User Group webinar. Thank you all so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.